cannot hear you. I cannot hear her.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Sherman. I am the Special Projects Coordinator for the Business and Tourism Department here at Mount St. Vincent. Today is the first of our series of Career Week panels. Today is our Marketing and Public Relations panel. So we have 4 panelists joining us today. We have Douglas Coll, the President of LeaderVision Atlantic Limited. We have Lori Cox, the Senior Engagement Officer at Coll Collective and Founder and Chief Strategist at Phoenix Arbor. We have Barkhouse, Business Specialist and Account Manager at PepsiCo, and Natalie Rahey, a Financial Consultant with Manulife Securities Investments and Services. I'm now going to hand it over to Nick Deal, my lovely co-host, to get us started.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome everybody. Welcome to our panelists. Welcome to our students who are joining us here for our very first of what is shaping up to be several exciting Career Week panels. So this afternoon, we are talking about marketing and public relations. And I'd like to start off our conversation by talking about our organizations that we work with, that we work for, and the positions that we hold in those organizations. So let's start with Lori. Can you talk to us a little bit about the organization that you represent and the work that you do?
Sure, thanks, Nick. Pleasure to be here, everyone. I'm Lori Cox, and I'm the founder and chief strategist for Phoenix Arbor, which is a newly birthed audience engagement agency or consultancy firm. I also am the chief engagement officer for Coll Collective. Really, that's North America's largest and most well-known audience engagement firm, which acquired my previous firm, Red Dragon Marketing, in 2019. So I built Red Dragon Marketing in 2010. It was acquired by Coll Collective in 2019. And then in 2020, this year, the year that we'll never forget, I birthed Phoenix Arbor. And so a lot of what I do is help to build the business. I also am the chief strategist, as I mentioned. And so a lot of what I do is focus on helping our clients build engagement with their audiences. So we build strategies around these that are based on research, and then we help our clients actually action those insights in the form of brand building and go-to-market plans. And I, of course, help to provide oversight for projects.
Excellent. Thank you, Lori, and welcome to our panel. We are excited because Lori is a alum of our program here at the Mount, and we always want to make sure that our alum are doing excellent things and exciting things. So welcome, Lori. Next, let's talk to Kyle. Kyle, can you just tell us about the organization that you represent here on the panel and the position that you do, that you work in that organization?
Yeah, definitely. So I work for PepsiCo Beverages, which is part of a larger brand, PepsiCo, which owns Frito-Lay, Quaker, Gatorade, and of course Pepsi. So I work on the beverage side. I work with a lot of what we call large format stores, which are the grocery stores. So I have a handful of stores that I basically got to do everything with. So anytime you go in, see the shelves filled or the displays built up, I have to manage and organize all of that. Work with the stores, any new innovation projects that happen, and of course deal with the fun stuff like Christmas, COVID, all that fun that increases shopping and help the stores manage the inventory and supply that they go through.
Welcome, Kyle, and that's a little organization I don't think any of us really heard of, Pepsi, right? PepsiCo, one of the big ones.
No. And we do bubbly, which is a good part too.
Excellent. Yes, actually a drink of my choice. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Kyle. And I believe, Kyle, you're also a graduate of our program. Is that correct?
I am. I had the very pleasure of Karen teaching me herself.
Oh, excellent. Look at this. This is great. Welcome to the panel. Let us now turn to Natalie. Can you talk to us about your organization and the work that you do?
So the organization I work for is Wealth Creation Made Simple. We're a small family business owned financial planning practice. And what we try to do for clients is we try to offer simple solutions for today's complex financial problems and make things simple by making sure our clients have all the information so they can make better formed financial decisions. In terms of the things that I do in the practice is I wear a variety of different hats. I would be considered the insurance expert in our practice. I also provide financial planning advice, and in addition to this, I manage the practice's marketing, website, and social media presence.
Excellent. Thank you, Natalie. Last but not least, Douglas, talk to us about your organization and the work that you do in it.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. Well, so first I'd like to say that yes, Karen Blotnicki also was one of my professors when I went to university a long time ago, although it was at, let's just say, the other school, not her current school. And Nick, I am a diehard Pepsi guy. Always have been, always will be. So, or sorry, Kyle, diehard Pepsi guy. You know, I'm there with you. So what does LeaderVision do? So LeaderVision is a sales culture and sales leadership consultancy, but with a very niche focus on building emotionally intelligent growth leadership in professional services. So the types of clients that I have are, you know, the large big four consulting houses, law firms, engineering firms, restructuring firms. I'm in the business of helping them learn how to you know, build their selling skills, their go-to-market strategies, and their go-to-market plans. And so that's what LeaderVision does. We're a small family business as well. There's only 3 of us, although we've created a broader national virtual firm that's kind of expanding out on really our definition of what leadership should mean these days. So that's LeaderVision.
Excellent. Welcome, Douglas. And it looks like you are also a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. So there's a brand as well. That's wonderful. Let us now talk about, so it sounds like we have an exciting cross-section of organizations that are represented in marketing and public relations. And we know, and if we unpack this field of marketing, public relations, it's very broad. And you've laid out the exciting work that each of you do and you're engaged in on a daily basis. But now let's talk about some of the pragmatics, if you will. So we'll start with Kyle. Let's talk about the things that you like about your job, the work that you're involved in. Maybe there's some things or some aspects that maybe aren't so pleasant. And maybe talk to us about the challenges perhaps that you face or what you find most challenging in your job.
Yeah, definitely. So easiest stuff to say is what you like about something. And that's the fact that I work with such a large, well-known company. The support and everything that they offer you is fantastic. I'm a people person, love going out, talking to people, meeting people, and seeing numbers do the work. So this job that I have right there just takes everything that I enjoy and puts it into one nice little ball and allows it to just kind of flow. The dislikes are always, you know, sometimes you got to merchandise stuff a little more than you want to, or part of the dislike and a challenge crosshair would be, unfortunately, the COVID pandemic that we had to deal with. I unfortunately still had to be out in stores when all that was going on. So you can definitely say that sometimes being in the way of customers might be a dislike, just because some people are always in a rush. And with the pandemic, it can make it a little difficult. So you got to try to find it. But that was definitely the challenge behind it. And, you know, trying to find out what's going to happen, because we do work for Pepsi. We have over 320 SKUs that we look at. So by that, I mean different sizes of the same product, different products. And we scan through pop, non-carbonated soft drinks, like bubbly Aquafina. We do Starbucks. So there's a lot of different products that we deal with, and different times of years, different markets, different stores. Believe it or not, 2 of my stores are only, I think, 6 kilometers apart, and the clientele is drastically different. So trying to figure out what people are going to be looking for, what the demand's going to be that week. And then simple things like even snowstorms coming or a hurricane coming. All of this stuff really affects how sales can be done at a grocery store. And I'm sure we've all been in a grocery store or any kind of convenience store where things have all of a sudden just disappeared in the wake of severe weather statement, or I'm sure some of you have definitely been out in the stores during COVID. So all of that poses a big challenge in trying to figure out how you can best maintain this. And that being said, you have to work with the stores on maintaining these levels, because too much, they're not happy, not enough, they're not happy. So trying to find that happy medium as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. Sounds like a lot of the work that you have done during the pandemic you've also contended with the supply chain, which is so important if you value chain of the brand and of the products that you are facilitating. Natalie, talk to us about your job. What do you like about your work? What don't you like? Are there any challenges?
I'm just trying to get myself unmuted here.
No, you're already unmuted.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the really big thing that I really enjoy about my job is I love helping people, knowing that I'm making a difference in their life by making sure that they're getting the right advice and making sure they can achieve the things that they want to achieve. It feels really good knowing that you're helping somebody meet a goal and provide them with financial freedom. In terms of the thing that I don't particularly enjoy about my job, it would definitely be the red tape from compliance. When I came into this position in 2015, I was really excited about all the things that I was going to be able to do to kind of bring us to the forefront in terms of having a website and doing marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then unfortunately, when I started to have to work with compliance, they told me you can't do a lot of these things. So the red tape from compliance would probably be the thing that I enjoy the least.
Thank you for that and for that honest response. Douglas, let's switch it to you. Your job, some aspects that you love about your work, some things that you don't like, and what do you find the most challenging?
You know, I love the fact that every client is different. Every client is different and every project is different. So I think, you know, it's great not to kind of get into you know, kind of the same old work, same old day. And so I think I really like that element of it. You know, one of the challenges, it's both a passion and a challenge, is that most of my clients, you know, unlike Kyle, for example, or unlike any of the other panelists that have chosen a career in sales and marketing, most of my clients have not chosen a career in sales and marketing. So they've chosen a career in another profession. And so they see sales and marketing as something that they do off the side of their desk. So they don't value it like we do. And so that lack of value both keeps me actively engaged, because they have to build practices, they have to build their businesses, they have to understand how to do this. But at the same time, there's a lot of skepticism, right? I operate kind of constantly in cultural headwinds, where the very people that I'm trying to lift up and move out may oftentimes be even skeptical around the value of sales and marketing in the first place. So again, it's something that I'm passionate about, is helping them along that professional journey. But at the same time, it can be problematic because there can be a lot of long days.
Excellent, thank you, especially for that perspective of a small family business into the realm that you're involved in. So thank you for that. Lori, your job, things that you enjoy, things that you may not enjoy so much, and some challenges that you face.
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, one of the things that I love the most, kind of echoing what Douglas had said about working with different clients and have different needs, and different projects, is always, you know, works for my like ADD or whatever, so I love that. And then also working with a cross section of C-suite leadership team to really provide transformative strategies. So in order for like some of these brands, so last year I had the privilege to work with Chili's restaurants as an example, you know, at the time about a $3 billion business, and work with their cross-functional team of leadership to help them drive change throughout the organization. And to see something, a brand that's been around since 1975, to actually make some very key changes from the inside out is just like amazing to see. And so I guess that's a lot of the work that I do is really more transformative from the inside out of these organizations versus just external, typical, what we consider to be marketing, you know, advertising and promotions and those kinds of things. In fact, if anything, we try to work with brands to move away from some of those, because in some cases it can be detrimental to the brand in the long run. And that's where the challenges really lie too. Again, kind of echoing to Douglas's point, even in these larger organizations, so you might have the chief marketing officer who's on board with seeing the light about needing to make change, but you might not always be able to get the rest of the leadership team on board because they just don't see how that's going to really impact in the long run. So that is probably one of the most challenging aspects. And then of course with the pandemic, it's a challenge because of course a lot of these brands, new or older, who've been around for a while, are struggling to figure out in a lot of cases how they're going to pivot or change what it is that they're doing to meet the needs of consumers today.
Excellent, thank you for that. And you've certainly worked with big brands like Chili's. That's amazing. Okay, so here's a question that I'll have Natalie start, and then we'll go around our virtual table here. But we have a panel of accomplished professionals, and I want to ask you this. I want to ask, what has helped you get to the point that you are at right now in your career? And not only what has helped you, but now at the point in your career, what advice would you give to those who want to set off in a similar direction? Natalie, we'll start off with you.
So in terms of my background, I spent 9 years working for a bank before coming over to this side of the business. And the experience that I was able to gain while working at the bank and the skills that I developed along with the education that I had allowed me to kind of bring a unique skill set that filled a gap that was missing here in the practice. When I started, there was no online presence. So I was able to get a marketing program and website up and running and establish a social media presence. They owned the trademark for wealth creation made simple since the early 2000s and never had really done anything with it. So I was able to take that and brand it. And in terms of advice for people looking to set off in the same career, just don't be afraid to take advantage of different opportunities and keep an open mind too. When I worked for the bank, I didn't really plan on staying there and just kind of fell into it. And it allowed me to kind of transition into the career that I'm in now, which uses a lot of the skills that I gained at the bank, but also allows me to use a lot of the skills that I gained when I got my PR degree and marketing certificate.
Excellent. I think that's a common theme with our students. So this will be a really interesting discussion for our students in our classes. Let's talk to you, Douglas, about what or perhaps who has helped you get to where you are at this point in your career, and any type of advice that you would want to offer to those who want to follow similar footsteps professionally.
Well, I think it's fair to say that I wouldn't be where I am without the help of Karen Blotnicki.
Oh.
There's just a little fun joke for you there, Karen, sorry. Although I still remember all of your classes, by the way. This is a great question. And I want to echo, I think, something that Natalie talked about, because when I was contemplating maybe an answer to this, it was really around the concept of don't be scared to take risks. Don't be scared to balance out the rational with the emotional in terms of how you think about opportunities. And ultimately, you know, a lot of people wanted to try to make decisions for me over the course of my career, and people thought that they owned those decisions, and they weren't theirs to own. They were mine to kind of challenge. And so when I think about, you know, when I graduated from St. Mary's, I was working for a local company. I had an opportunity to work with Canadian Pacific and Fairmont out west, and there were a lot of people that told me not to do that. And I followed my heart and the logic of the decision, and I went out west against, you know, a lot of really smart people telling me that I shouldn't do that. And then when I was with Fairmont and CP for 14 years, again as a director and regional director of sales and marketing, I had an opportunity with PwC in Toronto. There were people that told me not to do that. That was a reckless decision. Why would I leave a company of, you know, 14 years like Fairmont? And so I ignored them, and I followed, you know, the emotion and the rational of the opportunity. And I picked my family up and we moved to Toronto, where I had an outstanding career all those years with PwC. And then it was really the same thing when I wanted to kind of come home to Halifax and launch LeaderVision is, well, why would you? And so all of that just to say, I think if I had any advice to give somebody, first of all, always balance the rational and the emotional when you're looking at opportunities for yourself, and don't be narrow. Do what's right for you, and don't let anybody else kind of define who you are. Follow your authentic self and find those opportunities that are right for you. And so I guess that's my piece of advice.
Wow, very insightful. Thank you for that, Douglas. Lori, we'll switch to you. What has helped you get where you're at, and to those who want to follow in a similar form and fashion?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree with what Natalie had said about keeping an open mind. I think that's really important. I think the biggest piece of advice, just straight away, that I can give is to find your passion, because what you love to do and what you do for work ideally can marry. And I know that, that's kind of a old saying, but passion within, when I'll preface that, is that within some sets of specialization is helpful. So we're really in a gig economy now, right? Everything has shifted and dramatically been pushed forward, of course, this year especially. So, finding your passion, and the way to do that is to keep an open mind, to try lots of different things within all the different subspecialties of marketing, because there are so many facets. But it can be anything and everything, because until you touch it, feel it, experience it, it's hard to know if it's something that you're really passionate about. But once you do find that space, and you can start to take opportunities to continue to learn, self-educate, practice your craft, subscribe to different organizations and associations and news, filters and things like that are just going to help to feed your passion. It's really important, and to stay up to date on what's going on in the world. My passion, of course, so starting an agency, never having worked for an agency, but starting an agency and growing an agency was quite a challenge. And part of the reason, though, that I wanted to do that is I've always kind of been someone who's like to kind of go against the grain a little bit, find a better way. And so I built Red Dragon Marketing actually in a way that now is perceived to be sort of the trend for agencies, which is a combination model of internal staff and team with an external network of specialists who do very specific things. Because this way, in this fashion, those specialists get to continue to do every day what they love to do. Whereas people that often work inside of an agency, it doesn't matter how big or small, often you have to wear multiple hats. And so, that's not for everyone. But what's great is that model, because the model of the typical agency has gone away in a lot of the typical senses, and because there's a lot of overhead and inefficiencies that were created through that old model. And so kind of going back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is to find your passion, to set on that road, and then to plug in to places and people where you can really hone that passion and share that with others and find opportunities.
Wow, thank you, Lori. Kyle, can you talk to us about what has helped you get where you're at, and the advice that you would want to offer to others who want to follow in a similar form that you have obviously created some success in?
Yeah, I think there were three panelists before me nailed it on the head with saying, keep an open mind and not being afraid to take risk. And the third thing I'd like to say too is don't ever, and I see this in a lot of times, is don't ever think you're too good for a job. And by that, I mean, if you're working a job, do the best that you possibly can at that job at that time, because I find you see a lot of characteristics that will translate from that to everything you move forward. And it helps build relationships with different people. So you being out there and some manager that either is at that job or a customer or someone there sees who you are, that rapport can get built and really carry throughout the life. I know I took a big risk first year university. I was 19 years old, decided I was going to run a painting company. I've never painted in my life. Never sold anything in my life. Before that worked as delivering pizzas through high school. But I decided I was going to give it a try. And it was the most uncomfortable thing I've possibly done in my life. But I learned, I did everything I could. I talked to the right people. I did not do that well my first year, but I've learned from those mistakes and I carried that forward. So putting myself in that uncomfortable position to really push myself forward and try to achieve, to then with the company that I was running a franchise within, I went from being like probably one of the worst managers there at the time to the next year I was actually the top in the region. And just using that drive to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So just keeping your head and your eyes forward, knowing that you're going to learn and taking that risk, saying, okay, I'm coming back again a second year to make sure I can do this. So all of that goes to move forward and to keep striving at, if you want that promotion at that job, or keeping that open mind saying, you know what, I've never painted my life, but I'm going to give it a try. So having that, so my advice for people on that side is, if an opportunity sounds good, and Doug, I think you nailed it, was trust your gut a lot of the times. And if you have that feeling or that gut feeling that this is the right decision to make, sometimes you just have to go with that. And a lot of times it does pay off. So trust that, take that risk, and just don't not try at anything. Do your absolute best effort that you can at anything that you do, and it pays off down the road 100%.
This is a perfect segue to our next question. Thank you for teeing this up for us, Kyle, because you talked about perhaps not being too picky perhaps on a first job, whether that's in school, right out of graduation. So the question that I have, that we'll start with Douglas, and again, we'll work around the virtual room here, is can you tell us the types of jobs that are perhaps might be available to students considering a career within your company or within the particular niche that you occupy in the very broad marketing and public relations? And so, yeah, we want to talk about the opportunities that are out there for students, or sort of seed the thought of those opportunities for students that are certainly coming up to graduation this year, or how students can prepare to position themselves in the future.
Yeah, thanks. It's, you know, I struggled with this question a little bit, simply because it's a family-run business, right? There's three of us. We have a broader virtual firm that we're building across the country, but you know, my business outside of my own son that I, you know, deploy from a digital marketing perspective, he looks after the website media. He's helping me to move to a complete, you know, digital and virtual platform with my business, but hard to scale. We need one or two of those types of people within the business. So when I think about it, you know, the community of professionals that I do a lot of work with are these large consulting firms. And so it is, you know, it's the large law firms, it's the big four consulting firms, mid-market. You know, they have immense marketing groups, digital marketing groups, industry marketing groups, with tremendous potential to grow within those organizations. And so the sheer scope, if I think back to, and again, I presented to a group of about 80 marketing professionals from one of the firms last week. And that was probably half of the size of their national marketing team. So the amount of opportunities that are available in consulting from a marketing professional perspective, there's plenty, and there's lots of opportunities, and those opportunities are coming up all the time. But broadly, if I step back and I look at consulting as a career, then all of the folks that are listening to this may have a passion for some other element of business, and they may want to pursue a career broadly in consulting. Of course, what your marketing degree, your PR degree is going to be immensely helpful to you, because the first thing you have to do as a consultant is you have to learn how to sell yourself and to sell your own value proposition. And so again, I just, you know, recognizing, you know, the gig economy was already brought up. There are just an immense amount of opportunities either in working within marketing for large consultancies or looking at becoming a consultant yourself. And so again, many of these organizations, these large consulting organizations, have been expanding their products and services and practices to go right across the C-suite of these large organizations, these large clients that they service, of which the chief marketing officer is certainly one of those now. So when you think about digital marketing, digital transformation, that whole space is clearly open to amazing opportunity moving forward. So I guess maybe I've tried to give you two frames there. One, just from what I see from a marketing perspective inside my large clients, and then the frame of opportunities within consulting should you choose to continue your education, start to move to a higher level of specialization, and then think about where you want to play within these organizations to create value. So I hope that helps to give our listeners some perspective.
Douglas, that was perfect because you're offering insight to some of the clients that you're working with, and not only just inside your organization, but perhaps the broad landscape of people that occupy that space. And so that is incredible. Students, please pay attention to this. This is information that I'm sure you will find very helpful. Lori, I want to turn it over to you. I'll reiterate the question here. Can you tell us a little bit about the types of jobs or the opportunities that could be available for students that are looking to start a career with your company and or within the very broad function of marketing and business practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're always looking for, specialists, who have honed in on their craft. So that's always an area of interest for us. And just to go back to that for a second, it's important to think it's not just about specialization per se in exactly a refined skill set, but it's also in knowledge and experience, and also can be like industry focused. So there's a lot of ways to look at that, but all of those things are important to really help promote yourself, and kind of harkening back to what Douglas had said. It's like kind of if you want, for example, wanted to go into more of a consultancy or independent freelancer, both of those, developing expertise in whatever it is that you do, which is really a combination of the actual experience you have and the skill set that you've learned and acquired, is just really important to help promote yourself. And for us, like right now, the role that I am looking for is like a coordinator role, which is a little bit more of a generalist in the sense of helping to make sure that we show up professionally when we do engage with clients, keeping us on track and on time. I'm probably the worst one of kind of getting off track. But and then I just wanted to also touch on what I'm seeing in the market as well, which it's an interesting thing because a lot of medium, large size brands have, they've gone back and forth between working more with like agencies and firms or versus, really building up their internal resource team of marketers inside the brand themselves. So it's kind of shifted. And I would say from what I'm seeing, more of them are actually bringing these resources in-house. But there's still a lot of need for agency work, and in particular, the digital is exploding. Like if you look at any of the big freelance networks, everyone is looking for people to support like digital strategy, and digital, and all kinds of digital marketing. So that's definitely a space to be in right now.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. Kyle, talk to us about some types of jobs that would be available to students considering a career within your company or in the space that you occupy in marketing.
Yeah, definitely. So unlike the first two, I work for a very large organization with lots of opportunities that are directly within PepsiCo. One is we do co-op students a lot of times, so it's a great opportunity to get your foot in the door with PepsiCo, whether it's on the beverage side or the Frito-Lay side. So a lot of those opportunities do get posted at our job site, which is PepsiCo.com. Go on there, you can have a look. We also do put a lot of the stuff out to the schools and their career centers and the business departments as well. So while you're still in school, that's a great opportunity. We also do what we call a campus hire or a campus recruit. So it's an opportunity that I actually have the pleasure of being what they call a culture coach for one of them right now, where they come in for 12 to 14 months typically. doing a role in sales. After that, they basically promote you to a new role. So that might be into food service, move you into sales analytics, move you somewhere in the company that is an advancement that gives you a different side of things. And then the idea is once those 2 years are up, that student that was hired is now actually getting put into a management role. So it's a great little fast track way to get through the company. And those opportunities do come up every now and again. So again, we put those out. So keep an eye out for those if you're looking. Keep an eye on the website. So that's how we do things with students directly. Now, if you're looking to get a foot in the door as well, I know trying to find, and this is not just with Pepsi itself, but with any organization that you might want to be a part of, if you're not a co-op, is definitely looking for any part-time jobs while you're in school that might be within that company. Now, for Pepsi itself, we actually have some students that are what we call part-time merchandisers. So they are out on the weekends helping, work orders, fill the shelves up, make sure that everything's stocked up and go. But they're already within the company. And we've had a lot of those people who started as a part-time merchandiser and are now actually into a sales rep role and have moved up through the company as well. And then once you're in this organization, the growth that goes through it is phenomenal. But again, not just with Pepsi, if it's a different organization and a marketing firm that you're looking for, just finding a part-time job in school and get your foot in the door. And then that way, when you are graduated and ready to go, that company knows who you are, and hopefully the best works out for you, and you get on as a full-time position moving up through the company that way.
Excellent. Thank you, Coll, for highlighting the many opportunities that are in PepsiCo for students as well as early career entrants. Thank you for that. Natalie, time has come. Talk to us a little bit about the types of jobs that would be available to students or to new career entrants to your field, and perhaps even specific to your own company.
So in terms of our own company, we're also a pretty small family-run business. Although we have a lot of clients, we're probably not looking at adding anybody to our team necessarily soon. So I guess it's probably best for me to speak to the industry in general. I think starting at the bank is a good place to start to get experience. But if you're looking at coming over to this side of the business, on the independent side, probably looking to partner with an established advisor who doesn't necessarily have a succession plan might be a good place to start. Somebody that'll be able to mentor you and teach you, and you can work with their clients and kind of get experience that way probably would be the best route. Because starting at it on your own and opening up your own shop is very difficult if you want to be able to have more stability. Right now, with all the regulatory changes, they've made it very difficult. So really going at it with an established advisor is probably your best way to go.
No, that's perfect. And if you don't mind, we have a similar related question that I think would fit really perfectly in the same flow of conversation. So I'm going to move ahead to the question that I'll ask, and we'll start with Lori again. What type of people, whether that is students or new recruits, would you say would be ideal in the marketing field? So what would recruiters in very broad, could be in your organization or in the broad marketing field, what are they looking for with new career entrants, students who are interested in co-op internships? What type are they looking for in the marketing field?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of just coming out of university, I mean, the truth is no one expects there to be this, plethora of experience, of course, because it's just, natural at this age, you're going to only have certain types of experience, but to be able to show stability in terms of good work ethic wherever you have worked is really important. It's more important than maybe necessarily like the company you work for. So for example, like I've hired people because of their response to a question about what they did when they worked as a waitress in a restaurant. How they handled a situation with customers, because like the electricity went out and all of a sudden they were one of only a few people that had to deal with all these customers on the floor. And so every bit of your experience is valuable, is what I'm trying to say here. It's all really important. So showing good work ethic in terms of the length of time that you've been with those organizations you did work for, but then also over and above that, things that are really attractive to an organization are showing tenacity and hard work at like your craft. So if that means like, you know, volunteering your services to be able to hone those skills, obviously self-development, you know, self-taught work, the things that you are doing in university, you know, signing up for extra types of projects and programs are really important, because at the end of the day, you know, a firm, especially a small firm where there's limited resources, like my agency started a long time ago, is looking for someone who they can help to teach some of those refined marketing skills, but who comes with the good work ethic and the tenacity. The rest is, you know, I want to say teachable, but kind of it is. So does that help answer that question?
No, absolutely. And I'll ask a similar question here following up, just regards to some of the things that you feel would make a candidate stand out. So we'll come back to that. We'll switch it over to Kyle here now. So we're talking about the type of person, whether it be a student, a new career entrant, fresh out of university. What type of person would your organization recruit, or they would look for in this broad marketing field?
Yeah, so it is a tough one because it does vary, but I think it was just touched on by Lori saying, you know, what you do with your extra time. So for me, a big thing that helped me stand out was I coach a high school basketball team. I've been involved with coaching and playing basketball for quite some time, all through my school years, in junior high and high school. I was some way or another involved in coaching. So that kind of helped give me that leadership role that I could demonstrate. And I'd be lying if I said a lot of my interviews that I've ever had didn't spend at least 5 to 10 minutes talking about how I handle things as a coach. And so just those kind of things, that life experience or volunteering, that you can handle that situation, just as Lori mentioned with the power going out at the waitress, those situations, you can tell a lot about a person based on how they carry themselves through different aspects. So sometimes just, you know, being book smart, we'll say, is great, but that life experience that you can share with that interviewer person as well, don't be afraid to toot your own horn about what you've done, because that's going to help a lot of things. So finding that line where you can go. And then, of course, projects, any kind of role that you can say that you've done this extra work, a way that you can showcase your hard work, then that's those two things right there would help you a lot. Just life experience and showing that you were willing to put in the hard work will make you stand out for sure.
Perfect. I love the direction where this conversation is leading us. Natalie, talk to us about the type of person that would your organization would be interested in recruiting, or more broadly, the marketing field itself.
Yeah, so that's really difficult because, like I said before, we're pretty small and we're probably not looking at adding anybody to our team necessarily anytime soon. But I think basically what everybody said is about like not being afraid to talk to people is really important in our business. And yeah, just not being afraid of asking questions, trying new things. Experience is good, but I think ultimately what it comes down to, like where we're such a small family-owned business, is fit, and whether or not that person would fit well in our team and work well with the other people there, as well as kind of bringing the skills that we would need.
Perfect, great. And this is an excellent segue to Douglas, because Douglas, you're also involved in more of a boutique or a small, very small piece of the larger marketing and PR field. So talk to us about the type of person that maybe is best suited or would fit, that would be recruited in this very broad field.
Yeah, it is a great question, and there's a number of insights maybe I can offer on this one. So first of all, when you think about those part-time jobs, when you think about coaching, and Kyle, I'm a coach of baseball for many years myself, but those opportunities early stage in your intellectual development really can develop. You can develop a sense of what your passions and your strengths are, and so it's a great proving ground to kind of understand what it is that you're good at it and what is it that you enjoy. So I think any type of those types of early activities that you're engaged with through high school, university, even out, continue just to give you a broad perspective, and because those activities are putting you into different communities of perspective as well, which I think when you're young is absolutely critical. I mean, when I think about part-time jobs, I wrote down as an example, I mean, a good friend of mine, Andy Stewart, who I went to school with at St. Mary's and at Dal, he worked a part-time job at Colonial Honda. I think he started cleaning cars, went into sales for a while, eventually became a part-time business manager, and Andy is now running TD Auto Finance North America. He's an executive vice president with TD, and he got that part-time job. I started selling furnaces and fuel oil when I was 20 years old for Jim Lawley and Scotia Fuels here in Halifax, and door to door, right? I learned the craft of what I liked and what I didn't like. So those part-time jobs, those experiences early stage are critical. So now maybe what I'll do now is I guess maybe move to a more technical response. There's a big shift that's occurring right now. And it's this shift of kind of the knowledge economy to what's being called the emotional economy. And I always challenge my clients with it to say, and this could be a senior partner inside a large firm. I ask them a very simple question. Do I believe, or do they believe that the skills they have now are going to be the skills that make them successful 5 years from now? And they recognize that skill shift is changing as work processes and workflows are digitized, as businesses are digitized, as we turn to, this a different way to look at the knowledge economy through things like, AI and machine learning and all these things that are changing the way we look at knowledge. It has to change the way that this next generation of marketing students needs to look at their skills. So if I were hiring right now, and again, small business, so we're not, but I would really want to be exploring intention. What are people's intentions? How do they think about being well-intended? I would want them to be intensely and passionately curious to the point of, neurological disorder. I want them to be able to be people that understand the environment around them and have opinions on that. And so when I think about intention, curiosity, I think about listening, I think about great questioning, I think about executive presence. These are going to be the defining things that certainly for our industry are going to be critical, that people are no longer just going to be hired because they have a deep level of expertise. To some extent, that deep level of expertise is going to be able to be managed through automation. And so the types of skills we're going to have to bring forward in the marketplace need to be different. So when I hear people use language like soft skills, it drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely crazy. No. These are critical skills that, irrespective of whether you're a marketing and PR student at the Mount or anywhere, you have got to start thinking about how you're developing the full complement of your critical business skills, irrespective of where you want to go. So those are the types of things that I would be hiring for. I would want to know that that person is, uniquely contains those skills and that mindset. Because a lot of it we can either teach them, we can develop them, but if they don't have that, then I'm not sure if they're preparing themselves for the future. And again, in part-time jobs and part-time work, it's a great opportunity for them to start to explore all that.
Perfect way to round up that answer. Thank you for that, Douglas. Want to switch gears a little bit here. Let's go back to your experiences, if that's okay. And we'll start off with Kyle here. So Kyle, can you sort of think back to a specific experience where you're in your job and thinking back about a specific experience where you wished you had maybe done something a little bit differently? And if you were to do it over, what would you have changed and why?
That's tough because I can say that in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if I would change much because every mistake that I think I made, everything that I did has taught me a lesson in one way or another. Um, Overall, what I wish I could just have the knowledge I have now and have just done it a whole lot earlier. Definitely. But you know what? I don't think I'd ever look back and say, I wish I could have changed something, because everything that I've done has actually taught me a lesson, whether it be, what degree. I started off in kinesiology at Dalhousie when I first got out of high school. And would I change that? Probably not. I met some great people that actually later in life became very good associates as far as business side goes as well. So all of the things you do, I've learned to just take it as it's meant to be in my life in some way or another. And eventually there's a plan that's going to be probably laid out, or it's going to come back and help me out down the road. So I'm one of those few people that's got that corny answer that says I probably wouldn't change a whole lot based on lessons I've learned and experiences I've had.
Excellent. I was just thinking that is perspective. And a number of us get that as we age or as we progress in our career and get some more life experience. So that's a really cool answer. Natalie, talk to us. Has there been a time in your career where perhaps you wish you had done something a little bit differently? And if so, how would you be able, or how would you do it over? What would you change?
So there's a specific thing I wish that I would have done, not like a situation that I would have done differently. But one of the things that I talk to people about being really important is seeking out a mentor. I didn't do that, and I wish that I did. And so trying to go at things on my own. I'm pretty independent, and apparently I like to make things harder for myself than I need to. Having a good mentor is extremely valuable. It's someone that you can call to bounce ideas off of, pick their brain, and they can also act as an advocate for you for your next job, because you never really know who they can connect you with and how they can kind of help you later on down the road. So that would probably be the one thing that I would have done differently, and I would recommend for students to do as soon as they're really able to, is to find a mentor.
That's perfect. And if I can just follow up real quickly on this, Natalie, and putting you on the spot, how would you suggest students doing that? So mobilizing that idea of identifying a mentor. Any advice you have in regards to that? Perhaps you're a mentor to others.
It can be really anybody that you want, but I think first of all, you want to make sure that it's somebody that you can engage, and somebody who is actually willing to be a mentor, for one. And yeah, just somebody that you admire, that you would like to be where they're at, and kind of is going to be able to give you some really good advice.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. Very important mentorship. Douglas, an experience you wish you perhaps have changed, or if you had the opportunity to change it, you would do it over, and what would that be? Thinking back.
Yeah, this is a really easy one for me. And being the old, crotchety gray-haired guy on this call, I would suggest to every student that is listening to this to never accept working for an asshole. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there as plainly as I can, because life is too short. And so when Natalie talks about mentors, mentors are an amazing tool when you're working with bad people and bad leaders. All right, it's almost like they can balance out the impacts of that. If you are ever working for somebody who's a bad leader, then my advice to you, and again, and this is out of my own personal experience, stay long enough to learn what you can learn out of that job and move on. Don't get caught up in feeling that you have a loyalty to an organization or a person, because quite frankly, I don't think you do in today's economy. I've seen over the years too many really great, talented people just languish because they have not been well led. And I'm not talking about being well managed, I'm being well led. And so again, mentors and coaches can help to deflect some of that. But I think if I look back at my career, I allowed myself to stay too long working for people that weren't great. And I really don't know why I did that. And so I would recommend to you to just, if you're going to be interviewing for a job, you should be interviewing the boss as much as they're going to be interviewing you. Look at their reputation in the marketplace, see what their brand is. Because again, work is terrific when you go to your place of employment and you have leaders that respect you, value you, treat you well, respect your competency, invest in you. But oftentimes that's not the case. So if you ever find yourself there, don't make the mistake that I made and stay too long. Optimize your knowledge, get what you can out of that, and move on and find really great people to work with. I choose my clients now the same way. I don't want to work for people that just have money. I don't want to work for people that can just hire me now. I want to work for great people running great organizations. And so I choose my bosses, I choose my clients, and it makes all the difference in the world. So that's about as passionate as an answer I can give you there. And I apologize for swearing, but it's the only word I could think of at the time.
No, this is a real call here this afternoon. So thank you for that. And I really picked up on that theme about you being in a position now in your career, having these past experiences where now you are hiring your clients instead of the opposite way that a number of people will do, chasing after clients. And so I think that was a really cool takeaway from that as well. Thank you for that, Douglas. Lori, talk to us. A time in the past, perhaps, where something didn't quite necessarily pan out that you wish perhaps would have been different. And if you could revisit that, what would that be and why?
It's a great question. I mean, man, so many things that I've done and, mistakes that I've made along the way, but that's because I took risks. And I think in order to achieve anything, you definitely have to take risks, put yourself out there. I mean, just because I've done that, I have experienced some amazing opportunities, worked with some amazing people, traveled the world, and worked on some amazing projects and with some amazing brands. But I definitely concur with what Douglas had said, and Natalie too, like everyone really, like all really great recommendations around mentorship, surrounding yourself with people ideally that are supportive of you and your endeavors. I think the challenge that I faced and that I look back on, the thing that I would change is, I think along the way of building an agency, having never worked for one, I think that I suffered from something called imposter syndrome, which was this idea that, like, do I really know what I'm doing? Do I deserve to be here? Is this all, like, you just start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt everything, and you think, wow, like, is this, what am I doing? And some of those it's a self-limiting belief. And unfortunately, it impedes progress. I honestly do think that if I had been able to overcome that and had maybe better mentorship at the time too, that I might have been able to grow faster, go further faster with my first agency. But at the end of the day, I don't regret anything that I've done to date. I think, like Kyle had said, it's all part of the journey and how you get to where you are now. And so, yeah, I wish I had this knowledge, 20 years ago, but that's just not how it works.
That's great. Very inspirational around this table. So I really enjoy that. And I enjoy that immensely. Natalie, let's wrap up our conversation here. We've touched on this in the previous couple of questions, but I want to leave off on this sort of pragmatic point for students and allow me to work through this here. So the question is, in university, especially in business school, we are taught to hone skills, to build competencies. Douglas may not like this, but hard or soft skills, they're equally as important. There are co-op opportunities, there are internships, there's part-time work, there's extracurricular activities. What would be your one piece of advice for marketing or public relations students that are thinking about summer employment, thinking about the next co-op, thinking about opportunities after they graduate? What would be the one thing that you would offer to them so that their application can stand head and shoulders above the 200 and 300 applications that many organizations get when they're hiring. So we'll start off with you, Natalie.
So a little bit into that, one of the things I was thinking about in terms of my time when I was in university, I was part of the co-op program, and really grateful that that was part of the program that I had to do. And one of the pieces of advice around that I will have for students who do get a chance to do a co-op, and if you have a chance, do it. Don't be closed-minded in terms of the types of jobs that you're going to apply for. I originally went into that experience thinking I only wanted to work in corporate, and I had zero interest in not-for-profit or government. And I actually ended up doing 2 of my work terms with the federal government. And my first one that I did, I loved it so much that I wanted to go back to government, and I did corporate in between, and I actually hated it. So sometimes you can kind of surprise yourself in terms of the things that you like, in terms of things to make you stand out. So experience is always really, really good, but also volunteer work is a really good way to kind of network and connect yourself with a lot of people. I always talk to people about when you're looking for a job, you don't want to just look for a job and look for it in terms of like how much it's going to pay. Is this the job that I want? You want to think about organizational fit and whether or not you're a good fit for the organization, it's a good fit for you so that you'll be able to be happy there and really enjoy what you're doing. And like I said before, it doesn't necessarily come down just to skills and experience. It also comes down to being a right fit, and also who you know. And sometimes it's okay to do a job for a little bit just because it pays the bills until you find something better, and take advantage of every opportunity presented to you, whether it's a chance to do something like this, volunteer for organization or whatever, because you never know who it's going to connect you with and how it could help lead to the next thing.
Perfect piece of advice. Thank you for that. Douglas, some lasting insights, some advice to give our students that are thinking about entering this wonderful, beautiful, magical field of marketing and public relations.
It's hard for me to really follow up on what Natalie said, because I think she articulated that beautifully. You know, work hard, earn your future. I think it's there for you to take and to earn. And there are so many different ways to look at continuing to build out the skills that you're going to need. One of the things that I thought about is, you know, get involved in not-for-profits as early as you can in your career. Oftentimes, people think that some of these board positions or committee positions are only filled by more senior resources, and they're not. And I think there's wonderful opportunities out there to allow you to work within the not-for-profit community that will really allow you to build kind of experiences and skills that you may not have an opportunity. So I often find, you know, recommendations to say to people, look, yeah, you're developing your skills and your experience at your current job at a not-for-profit can kind of accelerate that. And then something just again to build off what Natalie had said, networks are just so critically important, but thinking about what the right network is early and understanding that networks are opportunities to carry your brand out into the marketplace, but then you have to kind of understand what your personal, your professional brand is going to be. In my experience, I work a lot with, you know, 28, 29, 30-year-olds, and they have not given an appropriate level of focus to their brands and their networks. So I have an opportunity to speak to a bunch of 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds today, perhaps, then I'd say really focus on your networks, but don't just build a network to get a job. Build a network to support your broader brand, and start now, start early.
Perfect. Lori, some departing insights or words of advice?
Yeah, I would definitely echo what both Douglas and Natalie had said. You know, it's a tough world out there, right? Like it's a lot has changed, but yet some of the same rules still apply. And I think the thing that I would say really push hard would be to say that network, developing your network, both, you know, within the university, so amongst your counterparts there, other students, teachers, faculty, but also your friends and family network, and then through those networks of organizations, associations, groups that you network with that are like part of that specialty or passion that you have. continue to grow that network is really important. You know, and then also it's nice to have that network, because when times are tough, you can kind of lean on them, and also puts you in a better position to be seen as available when an opportunity does come up, so that they know that you're looking for an opportunity. Because at the end of the day, even, you know, so small and mid-sized organizations still really appreciate referrals from people who already are familiar with them, to send people in, because there's always that nice warm sort of referral or warm lead. So it's a great way to put yourself in a position to be seen when that time is right.
Perfect. Last but not least, on our final question, Kyle, same question. Lasting words of wisdom or advice for our students that are looking to get an opportunity in a co-op, internship, summer job, part-time work, career after graduation. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think the three panels right before me, you guys all touched on it perfectly. Definitely getting out there and, you know, building that link between different people and building that network that you have. But once you get in that interview room, the biggest thing is making sure that you interview the best way you possibly can. And this just comes from personal experience on how I've dealt it, was making sure that I'm memorable in any way that I can make them think of me later on when they're making the decision. And I think, Doug, you might have mentioned it earlier about you got to interview the company or your new boss or new potential boss just as much as they need to interview you. And asking those questions like, you know, what career path did they take to get there? If you were to be hired on, how would you go there? And depending on the job, I've actually been brave enough to ask the question, if I had everything that you were looking for in an employee, why would I want to work for you guys? And having that question gets them talking about the company, gets them talking about their experience with it, and just little questions like that, and doing that research with the company or the person that you're interviewing with prior to going in there makes a world of difference. And I can say, I don't know if that's why I have the job I have now, but it definitely was told to me when I walked in for the third interview that I made myself memorable by asking those right questions and having a conversation rather than a scripted conversation, and more of an informal interview style, because I just talked to them. And that helps. So definitely practice your interview skills and your communication skills with those people that you're looking to hire, because robotic answers are never fun to listen to.
I think that's a perfect way for us to wrap up our discussion here this afternoon. If there's one takeaway that I've gotten from this, it's that people matter. More than just a customer, more than just a transactional relationship, thinking about within our profession, viewing ourselves as allies and colleagues versus competitors, and the importance of developing a personal brand and our own network. And so I would invite all of our panelists, as well as our students, to connect with one another. LinkedIn's a perfect way to do that, and that would be a really cool way to action some of these key takeaways. So I have the privilege of wrapping this call up. So on behalf of the 97 participants on the Zoom call, I want to extend a sincere thank you to Lori, Kyle, Natalie, and Douglas for taking time out of your very busy schedule to share your experiences, your wisdom, words of advice to our students. It means a lot. And on behalf of the Department of Business and Tourism here at Mount St. Vincent University, thank you everyone for joining our call here this afternoon. I wish you a safe and happy rest of your Monday afternoon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Thank you.